So yeah, we got the BOBOVR M1 Pro. This was one of their first versional ideas, and it kind of got scrapped and pushed aside for the M2 and the M2 Pro. So what do we have here? Well, let's take a look at the boxes. So this release is made up of two different parts. Well, actually about three parts. The first one, of course, is the M1 Pro itself, which is kind of an elite strap hybrid. The second new thing about it here is the rear padding. It's completely different, never done before, and it's basically what people have been asking for. People wanted rear padding that was grippy, and they basically got just that. It's a very nice material, very comfy, very cushy, and very, very grippy, to the point where it might be too much, and we'll talk more about that later on. The last part of this update/release would have to be the Retrofit Kit. And essentially what this is you can go ahead and transform your M2 Pro to an M1 Pro and switch between them without any problems. It does come included with the new padding. It's a very nice option for those who have no idea what to get, and they're kind of split between the M1 Pro, which is sort of the elite design, or the Halo design of the new M2 Pro. Well, you can go ahead and have it both. And this goes for $15. The price for the M1 Pro, I'm not sure if it's actually released yet. It might be around the same price of the M2 Pro, but the price point will be right here. If I don't have it, it'll be a no. So with that said, I was going to get started by transforming the M2 Pro into an M1 Pro and see how easy it is to do. Alright, so we got the center strap, the mounting accessories, with what seems like a QR code for a tutorial, the cushy padding, and the plastic mounts. It's a bit stuck here. There we go. Now personally, I don't need a manual since I've already taken apart the M2 many times while making my tweaking video, so it's actually pretty straightforward. First off, let's see what we have here. So we got a screwdriver, hopefully it's magnetized. We got the rubber grommets, the locks, the cable tie, and a bunch of screws. Now the question is the screwdriver here magnetic? It seems not. So to get started, go ahead and unscrew the single screw that's on each side. You can pop this out, and if you don't have any nails, you can use some kind of card. And you can just pop that right out. Now since we're here, we might as well go ahead and scan the QR code. It will bring up a list of all the products, and basically depending on what you press on, it will show up the product page. It will show you a little video tutorial, how to use it, installation, as well as some questions and answers, which is pretty cool. Now you may have noticed that we have an extra set of these end caps that comes with the retrofitting kit, as well as an extra pair of O-rings, which of course already exist on the M2 Pro here. So the question here is, are these any different? And the answer is yes. It seems like these are much thicker on the M1 Pro, and the original M2 Pro are slightly thinner. Or they might be just the same, since the M2 Pros here have been installed for a while, so it kind of changes the shape. Either way, we're going to go ahead and use the new end caps and O-rings. But first, let's make sure that we have the old stuff intact. I would recommend saving the screws inside the end caps, and just toss them right in there. So here goes on the new O-rings, grab the corresponding side pieces, and finally toss in the new end caps, and screw them in. And yes, it's going to be tight since it is a fresh plastic and it hasn't been actually screwed in yet. So make sure you have a nice hold on the screwdriver and apply a moderate amount of force while turning the screws. As for the cable management piece, you can only clamp it in on this side, as this part is kind of blocking it. So before you clip it, feed the cable. So now that we are done with the hard stuff, let's go ahead and finally install these little jellies. And before you install the top one, go ahead and grab your strap and make sure that the lettering is facing this way. Make sure it's centered and secured, so you can go ahead and toss in the last piece. So that's pretty much it. It should take you a couple minutes, pretty simple and straightforward, not a whole lot of problems that should occur. And if you are left with 4 brand new screws, then you should have hopefully done everything correctly, as these are just spare screws in case you lose yours, which is nice. Alright, so at this point you're probably wondering, how is the headset, how is the new padding, how is the M1 Pro? Well, to be honest, there's a whole lot to cover, so let's go through it one by one. So the first thing that I noticed when mounting the headset was actually the rear padding. Since the way that I usually use the M2 Pro and other straps is I go ahead and put my face on, and then pull it from the back like so. And basically when doing so, the material here was gripping onto my hair. Now I don't have long hair, I just have regular, shorter hair, but I kind of felt a grip and it was a bit weird. But of course I gotten used to it, and things have smoothed out pretty quickly once I started adjusting the top strap. So that's not really a problem for me. However, as I have mentioned before, it might actually have a bit too much grip depending on who you are. If you're someone who has long hair, then you might have an issue where this grip might actually have a bit too much grip and might cause some unforeseen problems. If you have long hair, then you may possibly encounter some weird issues where if you already have it set up and you're wearing it, and as you're gaming, it might grip to your hair and kind of pull it down or slightly up, but of course just the outer layer. This is just a thought, I can't really confirm it yet. And since we're on the topic of padding, let's just keep going. In terms of build quality, this thing is solid. The Velcro here is not coming off, it is part of the mold and it's not going anywhere. It's just very nice. Now some of you might be wondering, how would it perform when you're sweating? Well, I went ahead and tested that out by going ahead and wetting the entire surface, and when you feel it with your hand, it feels very slippery of course, but when putting it on, it was a completely different story. This thing was still as solid as it can be and was not going anywhere. I was jumping around, moving around, as well as applying some manual upward pressure, and I'm happy to say that it's doing its job very well. So I would say yes, this thing does definitely fix the padding issue that was causing a lot of people's headsets to kind of slip upwards. However, this brings up other issues and other concerns, and that would be hygiene and the way of cleaning it. This type of material is very easy to actually pick up on dust, hair particles, whatever it is, this thing will capture it. Of course, if you're not being careful. Now, how easy is it to actually clean up? Well, I guess we can go ahead and take one of these and just kind of rub it on the couch, on the floor, collect a bunch of lint, and see how easy it is to actually wash. So let's do that. Alright, so we got a bowl of water here. As for the padding, I just threw it under a couch, collected a bunch of dust bunnies, and that is the result. I don't think anyone is going to make it even dirtier than this. So let's see how well it washes off. And the moment of truth, it seems like it does a pretty good job at being cleaned up by just simply washing it with water. So let me go ahead and dry this off and continue the video. And the next two things that I encountered happened simultaneously. One of them happens to be with the mounting system. As you can see here, although it's very easy to install, it doesn't have the best locking mechanism. All it has here is this little lip right there. And that is not enough, in my opinion, to actually secure a headset like this. I would like to see at least double or triple the size in terms of width when it comes to this locking mechanism. As when I was actually mounting the headset, it just simply slipped off. And for that, of course, as always, I do have two fixes that we'll test out in just a bit here. Now the other thing I encountered was actually the side straps rubbing against my ears. So the top of my ears are kind of sitting like so. It pretty much feels like wearing a pair of headphones without the ear pads. I'm sure a lot of you know what I'm talking about. So not very comfortable, and the way that I solved it by about 70 to 80% is by simply mounting the rear side a little bit upwards like so. Since the way that I usually wear headsets is actually having it a little bit downwards like so, for just a bit more grip. Again, this is just my experience. Your experience will vary depending on your head size, your ears, and pretty much everything else. So that's just something to keep in mind. And that's really about it. It's kind of an elite strap hybrid, kind of not. It is comfortable, it is grippy, it is pretty secure when it's secure. That said, like I mentioned before, the right mounting clip constantly slips. So the first fix we could possibly try would be by simply trying to bend the front end. And here goes nothing. So we're going to stress test it and see if it snaps, if it bends, if it creases. Alright, so it already feels pretty tight. And there we go. This feels perfect. It's not going anywhere, and I'm applying a lot of force, a lot of bending force, and it's on there pretty well. So there you go, we didn't have to use a jet lighter and kind of melt the plastic. We could just simply go ahead and bend it inward slightly, and make sure that we get a very solid, secure fit. And yes, that pressure did leave a little bit of mark here, but it should be fine. So yeah, all's left to do is now talk about the battery. If you have not watched my original M2 Pro video, then here's a quick recap. The M1 Pro and the M2 Pro use this little B2 battery system. It's a pretty awesome battery system with 4 LEDs, a button, a little beep to indicate how much battery there is. This one is kind of dead. This one is not. It's magnetically attached, it's got 5200 mAh, and a total output of 3 amps. It can be externally charged, and you can use one of them while the other one is charging, and yes, these are sold separately. The top USB here can also be used as an output to, for example, charge your F2, which is, yes, another one of the products that is a cooling fan that is integrated to work with their own face pad. It's pretty awesome, keeps your lenses fog free, and it's very nice and quiet. And so, the conclusion. Do I recommend the M1 Pro? And do I recommend getting the retrofitting kit? Well, when it comes to the M1 Pro, I would say it's a very interesting headset. Personally, I would rather get the M2 Pro, as well as the retrofitting kit, just so I can actually have all the options. And in my opinion, the retrofitting kit is worth it just for the padding. If someone else was selling this padding, they would also sell it for $15. But with this one, you're also getting a center strap and a way to transform your M2 Pro into kind of an elite type of hybrid strap. So again, personally, I would definitely get the M2 Pro plus the retrofitting kit, just so you can have all the different options. So with that being said, that is all for this video. If you have any questions, do let me know in the comment section below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.